Hi, I'm Christelle from Diabetes Strong, and this video is going to be all about what is a low blood sugar and what can you do about it. In a non-diabetic body, blood sugars rarely dip below 70 milligrams per deciliter. But if you're managing your diabetes with insulin or other blood sugar lowering drugs, and if you have too much insulin on board, blood sugars might dip below those normal levels. And that is called hypoglycemia or low blood sugar. Without enough glucose, which is a type of sugar in your bloodstream, your brain and your whole body will struggle to function. And most people will start to feel the symptoms of low blood sugars. If a low blood sugar is not treated with glucose, blood sugars can continue to drop, which can ultimately lead to a severe low blood sugar. A severe low blood sugar is a situation where you need help from somebody else to raise your blood sugars up to a safe level. So that could, for example, be a situation where you can't eat any more carbohydrates or where you can't swallow. Low blood sugars can feel very different to different people, both when it comes to when do we start to feel low and also how the low symptoms manifest. And if your blood sugars tend to run a little bit on the high side, you might already start to feel low symptoms at 100 milligrams per deciliter and maybe even higher. I can usually feel my low blood sugars, and most often I'll start to feel symptoms when I hit 60 milligrams per deciliter. So most often it's a feeling, and it's impossible for me to describe, but I'll feel low. If it drops lower, I'll start to become a little more confused. I often describe it as I'm a little slow. I'm not really understanding what's going on around me. And then if I dip below 50 milligrams per deciliter, I will usually start to shake. I will start to sweat. And one of my newer symptoms, which is a little odd, but I know others have this as well, is that my mouth will go numb. If I have a low blood sugar while sleeping, I'll often have what I call stress dreams. So it's dreams where everything is very convoluted, goes in circle, and everything just goes fast and fast and fast and fast and faster. And whenever I wake up from these dreams now, I immediately know that I'm low and I have to go treat it. If you've been living with diabetes for a while, you might know your low symptoms, or you might not. Unfortunately, some people do have hypo-unawareness, which simply means that they don't feel their low blood sugars. The only way to truly know if you're having a low blood sugar is to measure your blood sugar using a glucometer or a glucose meter, like this one. I did make a whole video on how to measure your blood sugar. I will link to that up here. So if you don't know how to do that, I suggest you check that out. But most of the meters out there, they work the same way. So you have your meter, you start out by washing your hands with warm water and soap, dry your hands completely, get out a test strip, place the test strip in the meter. It will then turn on, and then poke your finger with a finger pricker, press out a little blood drop, place a blood drop on the test strip, and depending on which meter you have, it'll come down maybe a minute, down to 5 seconds, and it will tell you your blood sugar reading right here. When it comes to treating low blood sugars, it's recommended that you follow the 15-15 rule. So what that means is consume 15 grams of carbohydrates, talk about what those would be in a minute, and then wait for 15 minutes. After the 15 minutes, your blood sugar should be back into range. If they're not, then you repeat the process. So 15 grams of carbohydrates more and wait for 15 minutes. My trick for actually adhering to the 15 minutes is to simply set an alarm on my phone. So I'll consume my carbohydrates. I'll set an alarm for 15 minutes. I'll go do something else outside the kitchen so I don't overeat. And then after 15 minutes, I'll check in with my blood sugars again. For treating a low blood sugar, ultimately you reach for a high glycemic carb, preferably without any fats. The reason for that is that fat can actually slow down the digestion, so that means that the sugar won't hit your bloodstream as fast. So unfortunately, chocolate is not really an optimal way of treating low blood sugars. Sorry. My preferred way of treating a low blood sugar is either glucose tabs, see some different ones here, or applesauce or juice. I have done a full video on other ways of treating low blood sugar, so check that out up here. But today, let's start out by talking about glucose tabs. I know a lot of you guys are hating on glucose tabs. You don't like them, you find them chalky and all that good stuff. But what I really like about tabs is, first of all, each tab is 45 grams of carbohydrates, so it's really easy to dose. Also, they're portable. So check this out. I have this little case. See if I can even open it. Here we go. And it holds 4 tabs. This can go directly in my back pocket, and I always have glucose with me when I'm out and about. And the fact that each tab is only 4 or 5 grams of carbs is really beneficial, especially for me, because I don't always need 15 grams of carbohydrates to treat a low. So one example is if I have a morning low. So let's say I have a low blood sugar around 6 a.m., 5 a.m. in the morning. In a situation like that, I actually only need one glucose tab. So I only need 4 or 5 grams of carbohydrates to raise my blood sugars up to normal levels. I know this based on experience, and I know this because, as most of us, I am more insulin resistant in the morning. I also have a hormone surge around 5, 6 a.m. in the morning. So if I take more than one glucose tab, my blood sugars will go way high, and I'll have to treat that high with more insulin, which, quite frankly, is just an unnecessary situation. So for those of you who go like, no, Christelle, no. Glucose tabs is super chalky. You're probably eating these. Actually, I don't mind these. I like these. I think these are strawberry. But if you don't like these and you have a hard time, eating them, especially with a low blood sugar, check these out. So these are chocolate marshmallow. I really think they're yummy. And they're soft tabs. So let me just show you. So these come in packages of 4. Might want to open it before. But you see each tab, it's a little thicker, but these are soft tabs. See, you can actually break them in two fairly easy. So that means that even at night when you don't want to be chewing, just popping them out one into the mouth and it'll basically dissolve in your mouth. And then there's the option of juice or applesauce that I mentioned before. So my trick to this is to pick out the juice boxes or the fruit pouches that are meant for kids and only have 15 grams of carbs. So if you choose the larger juice boxes or if you choose a carton of juice, you actually have to measure it out. And I bet you that you can't eyeball 15 grams of carbs in the middle of the night while you're shaking and trying to treat a low blood sugar. Should you be in a situation where you cannot consume any more carbohydrates or the situation is turning into an urgent low blood sugar where you need help from somebody else, you need to utilize a glucagon kit. So I will link to some different videos I did on glucagon because there are some different options available now, and I'll link to that down in the video description. I hope you learned something from this video and at least found it interesting. If you did, please give it a like below and let me know in comments, how do you prefer to treat your low blood sugars? And if you'd like to see more from me, please click the subscribe button and you'll be informed whenever I post new content. Thank you so much for watching.